Well, it's lovely to have you here.
Good to see you, Enda.
You're one of my best musical friends, and we have played many a tune over the years.
Many adventures, yeah.
In many adventures.
Good fun.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you're a renowned fiddler and bouzouki player, but specifically Greek bouzouki. And we'll talk about that in a minute. I know your sister, Pauline, who's a wonderful banjo player. As we used to say, the world's sexiest banjo player. She was always very happy about that. And she...
It's easy though, because everyone else playing the banjo's an ugly old bloke, isn't they? Oh, sorry.
This is very true.
Everyone. I'm not sorry at all. Anyway.
So, give me a little bit of background. So, you live in Galway, but you won't mind me saying, mate, that's not a Galway accent.
Do you know what I mean? So me and my three sisters, Bernie, Kathleen and Pauline, we were born in a town called Bedford in England, which is about an hour north of London. And like most Irish people who went away looking for work and to make a living for themselves back in the day, those who went to England would normally gravitate towards London. So mum and dad was working, he was about 17 years of age or something. He was working in Newport in Wales at the time. But on their journey, cut a long story short, mum and dad both met in Bedford town, which was a beautiful town when we were kids. Lovely river runs through it, and it's lovely spot and good people, and big Catholic community there at the time when we were kids. I don't know what it is now. It's been that long since I was there, but all the Catholic schools are full of Irish, Italian, Polish kids, you know. So we had great fun growing up. So my dad is one of the most beautiful musicians I've ever met. He is completely self-taught, completely organic, unspoiled by anything technical. What do I mean by that? He's a real natural talent, pure natural talent, in that he tunes a fiddle by ear and it's bang on. So he's got pitch perfect, right? And then you have his timing and rhythm are so rock solid. Yet he wouldn't know what key a tune is in that he's playing, and he wouldn't necessarily know what note he's playing when his finger's on the string. He wouldn't have any technical knowledge like that. He's just a honest to God, homegrown, real deal, and I absolutely love him. He's brilliant. As a kid, he played the whistle, the flute, the box, and the fiddle, and no teacher, all self-taught. Mick Conneely, Mick Senior, yeah. So he was a twin. He was the oldest of 6 children. He had a brother in New York, a sister in London, and the other dad was in near London. They were heading to London, you know, as everyone was. But then when they got to Bedford, there was a lot of work on. So dad was in Bedford for a couple of years, and then him and my mum met. And my dad's from Clifton in County Galway. My mum is from a little town in North County Longford called Newtown Forbes. And mum was a great dancer. Her twin brother, she was a twin as well. So, and her brother they were good dancers. And I think their relatives, not grandparent generation, but the kind of auntie and uncle generation were like All Ireland champions in the day, which was quite something back then, you know. And my mum's youngest brother was a really, really good class accordion player. Really good. So my Uncle Willie, that's mum's baby brother, and my dad played tunes all the time because he was in Bedford as well, Willie was. So there were some great times to be had. Mum and dad met, married, settled down, and me and my 3 sisters came along. But we were surrounded by music in the house from day dot. 78 to Michael Coleman, James Morrison. Then when the old 45s came out, or the 33s, RPM LPs, you know, the Joe Burke and Andy McGann stuff, we were overdosed on that.
Where was the Michael Coleman? Where were those records coming from?
Dad and Mum managed to have 1 or 2 records. We didn't have many 78s. They were brittle enough anyway, but most of the stuff that Dad collected would have been on 33 RPM when the LPs come out, the 12-inch. And, you know, as I say, we were overdosed on like Andy McGann, Joe Burke, Paddy O'Brien, Seamus Conneely, that kind of stuff. So I was 11 when we started playing, even though we were surrounded from when we were born, you know, there was always musicians passing through. There'd be tunes and songs and dancing in the house. We'd wake up as kids and come down. There'd be people asleep on the chair, on the couch, lying on the floor. Even I've stepped over legs to get to my breakfast as a boy. You know, the great Desi Halloran, God love him. He was on, I stepped over him at one stage, I'm sure, as a 4-year-old or 5-year-old on my way to the kitchen. And anyone travelling through would end up in our house on the way to London, you know. But when me and my sisters come along, Mum and Dad decided to settle, and they never went that extra mile to Dublin, you know, to London, sorry. So that's where Bedford came out about.
Can you remember it being a big event when new music would arrive into the house? Now you can go to YouTube and it's instant, but so you don't maybe value it as much.
Oh, I'll tell you, when we were kids, all I had was, Mum and Dad had this old record player. It was a fine piece of furniture, and you open the lid and it had the record player and a radio built into it. And there were 4 speeds. There was 78, 45, 33 and 16. They were the 4 speeds. So records, LPs were gold dust. In Bedford, we were an hour north of London, 50 miles. So we didn't have a record shop that sold Irish material. The nearest thing to us was London, and there was a record shop called Mandy's. And we went to, the odd time we went to London, which wasn't very often as kids, we'd buy whatever we could. You know, Dad would, you know, he'd come home with a wedge of 12-inch LPs. Then he heard of this guy called Brendan Mulcair, who was from Crusheen in County Clare, and he was teaching music, and he started up classes in Bedford, but he was in Bedford for a good few weeks before we got wind. You know, we didn't have a telephone and there was no internet or nothing, you know, we didn't hear about it. The world was a very big place then. Now, it's not. Everyone's connected instantly now, so it's not a big world anymore in that respect. So Dad brought me to Mulcair's class one Saturday, and then the following week the 3 girls came with us, and we had lessons for about a couple of years. Brendan would come down to Bedford, or up to Bedford rather, we were north, so he came up to Bedford, an hour drive each Saturday for a couple of years, and taught us amongst other kids. So anyway, we started on the whistle, all of us, you know. Brendan, you know, we taught us a whistle, learn the scales, learn simple little tunes. It's funny, I don't remember doing like Bar Black Sheep and stuff like that a lot of teachers pump out now. We were put straight on to simple jigs and little hornpipes and stuff. Well, no, we weren't thrown straight in at the deep end. You know, I had my armbands on, do you know what I mean? But anyway, so... and then after about, 6 months or a year, whatever, playing whistle and knocking out tunes, what would you like to, what would you like to progress on to? And I said fiddle, because I wanted to be like my dad and my granddad. My granddad was a fiddle player, my dad's father, Marcin, and then my dad's mother, Anna, she was born in Long Island. And as a young woman, she knew Coleman and Morrison, but she was very, very close friends with Paddy Killoran. And I was too young to appreciate the history. And oh my God, what a missed opportunity. I'll never forgive myself. But then I was young. What would I know? Do you know what I mean? I'm still young, by the way. But anyway, I know I talk such shaffos, don't I? But it's entertaining, mate, innit? No, so I started on the fiddle. And we lived in a little 3-bedroom semi-D. And Mum and Dad had, the main room. Then the 3 girls were in the big room. And then I was in the little box back bedroom at the back of the house that, it was above the kitchen. And my mum would be down in the kitchen. And I'd be practicing and scraping away. And when I say scraping, oh my God. The woman, how she didn't pull her teeth out with the scrapes and screeches coming from the fiddle. I must have tortured her, the poor girl. I really must have. But it was worth it in the end. But me and my sisters, we never ever got anything but nurtured and encouraged in the music. When Mum and Dad got us going to Brendan Mulcair, and I must say this about Brendan, he was a real music man, loved the music, and he came to Bedford every Saturday and refused to take a single cent off my parents for lessons.
Why do you think that was?
I don't know why that was. He just loved us, I think, and he saw something. Maybe he saw, I don't know, genuine gift, talent, I don't know. But he just loved us, you know what I mean?
Just took money from the useless kids.
Oh, if anyone's watching this, I'm going to get my head kicked in next time I go. But you're going to put your teeth up with broken fingers, mate.
You'll have a load of friends that were like, we were paying for them. We must have been useless.
Yeah, we were probably the only ones. I mean, I'm sure he did that for many people. He was so good-hearted.
Yeah. I've heard loads of stories about him. He pops up on the podcast all of the time.
Yeah. He was a brilliant teacher. You know yourself. I mean, being a brilliant teacher is one gift. Being a brilliant musician is a completely other. And it's like you could be the best soccer player in the world and you manage a team and they get relegated. You know, just because you can play doesn't mean you can teach. Do you know what I mean? But Brendan had the two, and he really, Mary Bergen has the two. Do you know what I mean? You have the two.
But anyone that's able to teach multiple instruments, I think, is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, he taught banjo, whistle, flute, accordion, but fiddle. You know, he was a fiddle player, but he was a brilliant box player as well. Brendan was, and you know, he didn't take anything off us because we, you know, 4 little kids and people struggled in them days. But he had a heart of gold, and only for him, the exposure we got through him was something else, where we would be afforded an opportunity to come and meet and even play with certain people like Raymond Rowland, Bobby Casey as a kid. Oh my God, Bobby Casey, what a player.
And a character.
Oh, brilliant fun. Brilliant fun.
You must have some Bobby Casey stories.
I do, but
go on.
They're not for
public
consumption.
There's no children listening to my podcast.
No, I remember it was just funny. He had a great sense of humor, and but the thing about Bobby, his left hand, and as a fiddle player, and any fiddle player watching this, when you're practicing your rolls and the cuts and stuff, when I was a kid, you know, I'd be practicing my rolls and cuts and trying to get my tunes as beautiful as I could. And when I finished practicing, I think I'm only been there for half an hour. And I get my football kit on and football under the arm, and I walk downstairs and I open the front door because I'm going out to kick ball with my mates, and it's pitch black. And Mum's saying, "Where are you going at 11:30 at night?" And I'm going, "What?" 6 hours practice every night. And it seemed like half an hour. It flew for me. And that happened all the time with me. Trying to get my rolls as beautiful as they weren't in that performance earlier, but I just need to practice. You know, you always need to practice, by the way. There's no escaping my call, right? So, but listening to the likes of Bobby Casey and the way he rolled, and the balance and the swing and the colour he put in his rolls, I mean, there's no one like him. Oh my God, I could listen to it all day. Absolutely stunning. Stunning. And we were kids, 12, 13 years of age, and Mum and Dad would get us into a pub where there were tunes happening. And like, at the time, John Carty was Brendan's star pupil. And if the truth be known, always will be, to be fair. I first met John when I was 11, and he was brilliant then. Staggering talent. And he of course, he came from music stock as well. There was music on his mother's side. She was Connemara, his dad up in Boyle, in Roscommon there. Lovely flute player. And God rest his soul. But John was the star of the day. And probably still is, you know.
Did you feel Irish?
100%. As I do now. 100% always. That's a really good question, actually. Very good question. When we were kids, you know, the troubles in the north were rife, and of course, living and born and bred in England, hence the English accent. And Bedford's only an hour north of London, so it's kind of a North London accent in it. Do you know what I mean? But whenever something happened in the troubles and it affected England, you know, like there could have been a bomb or something on the English mainland or whatever. I mean, the stick we got at school, you know, you terrorist and all that, you know. There'd be football matches, you know, the rest of the world against Ireland, but, you know, the terrorists are going to lose, that kind of stuff. You know? And it had nothing to do with us, but I mean, the fact that we were Irish, the Italians and the Polish kids never got any of that stick.
What was that like then? Because it's a good story now, but what was it like as a kid?
Well, I mean, it never got violent. I mean, someone didn't come up and say, your bloody country, you know, you didn't get your teeth knocked out or anything. You know, what was it like? Well, we didn't know. I didn't know what it was like because I experienced it, but I wouldn't have anything to measure it against or compare it to. Do you know what I mean?
So what was your awareness of the Troubles then?
Well, we only got the propaganda news. When I say propaganda news, what isn't, you know, the side, I should say. We only got the side of the story that was aired on British media, you know, TV and news and stuff. So, of course, it was going to be one-sided. It might paint the other side to look way worse than it was. But, I mean, it was all bad. You know what I mean? I'm not for 1 minute condoning anything. It was awful. But, I mean, as kids, you know, 13-year-old at school, you know, there was never any real trouble. But people never let you forget you were Irish, which is funny. Because, you know, my parents are Irish. I've got Irish blood in my vein. You know, I say to my kids, my 2 boys are born here. I say, even last night having dinner at home, my young son goes, "You're English, Dad." Now, I must stress, right, I have got absolutely nothing against England. My mum and dad never. My dad would defend England in that it was good to him in their day when they had nothing here and they had to go away to make a life for themselves. And England was good to them. There were good schools, good health system. I mean, at one stage, you know, England had a brilliant, you know, rail system, road system, everything. You know, when Thatcher came in and privatised everything, that's when everything went downhill from there on in. And look at the poor people now after Brexit and everything. I can't imagine living there now, really. All my mates are still back there, of course, you know, that I grew up with, went to school with, and great lads. Again, they'd all be... Most of them would be, like ourselves, second generation Irish, born off Irish parents. But I always knew I was Irish because of the exposure to the culture and the exposure to the diet. You know, because, I mean, you couldn't put a pork pie and a spam and egg in front of my old man. He wouldn't even give it to the dog. "What's that shite? What's that fucking shite?" He wouldn't, you know, Dad worked hard. He needed decent food.
What did he work at?
He was a construction labourer. So he wasn't a bricklayer or anything, but he could do everything, you know. But he worked very hard over the years, had a couple of bad knocks, got buried alive in a trench one time. I was about 12, I think, at the time. His mates jumped in and dug with their bare hands, got him free up here so he could breathe. You know, he was pinned from the hips down, but before the fire rescue people got there, he tried to move to free himself and he broke his pelvis, the poor man, and he was in hospital for ages healing. He was lucky man. He was lucky man, and all good Irish lads who worked with him. You know, Tom McLaughlin, Tony, Nacy O'Loughlin, all them boys. They really dug him out, literally. You know what I mean? When Dad was in hospital, I remember he was in Luton and Dunstable Hospital. Luton is 20 miles south of Bedford, which is only 30 miles from London, so you're getting into outer London area. Luton was also a great hotbed of talent for music as well. Brendan Mulkey used to teach there amongst other teachers, and the number of kids playing Irish music and the standard was staggering. Really, really good. So we'd often go to flowers in you know, St Mary's and Gardenia Avenue in Leagrave. There always used to be flowers there and stuff. Oh, it was great. The tunes were great. But Dad, when he was in hospital, there were so many visitors coming to him, and no one was visiting anyone else. They had to move him into a private ward because everyone was getting depressed that they were getting no visitors and stuff. I mean, it was like a state funeral. People were coming out of the woodwork like to see this fiddle player, you know. Honest to God, it was mad.
Did he play professionally?
No, never.
So he never did a gig in a pub or anything like that, no? No
sessions, no. He used to work 6 days a week really hard, and then when on a Sunday was the time when I remember as a kid, I couldn't even walk properly. I'd say I was only 2, and he'd have the fiddle case on the floor and he'd be sat on the chair playing tunes and kind of crying a bit. He was only young, he's only 27, and he was maybe mission home or whatever, you know, and I'd be sat on the floor next to him, listening to him, pretending the fiddle case was a bus and just driving it around him as he was playing tunes, you know, that. But so he always loved the music and kept it going, even though he was on his own. Then my mum's brother Willie came. There was another lad in town, Larry Conroy. He was a nice box player from Offaly. And there was a little community of musicians there, but nothing like we have today, and not in numbers. But anyway, but But thanks to mum and dad's, even if we were born in Timbuktu, they'd have made sure that we were exposed to the music of Ireland, you know what I mean? And the dancing. Because all my sisters danced. I never did. I luckily got away with it. I mean, I've got good rhythm and timing, all right, but I wouldn't say, I mean, as a dancer, me, I'd be like a newly born giraffe on an ice rink. Great entertainment, but pure muck. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can't see it.
No, but the girls were brilliant dancers, Pauline especially, and Bernie, actually. Brilliant dancers. But they get that from mum, you know. And it's funny, I live in Galway. When we were kids, the one name we always heard my mum coming out with was Celine Hession. Oh my God, Celine Hession. Absolutely adored Celine Hession. And of course, myself and Celine are good old buddies for a long time now. And her brother Carl, you know, when you're a kid, you never dream you'll ever grow up and meet and see these people and actually play with them or play for them, you know.
Was it always a dream of your dad's and your mum's to move back to Ireland? Was that all? You hear that a lot about people that have to emigrate for work, that they always want to come home.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. See, mum died 27 years ago. She was only younger than me when she'd passed, bless her. So dad's been a bit of a lost boy ever since. But she was a smoker in her youth and the lungs gave up on her in the end. And she died in my arms, actually. It's quite something. I was kind of happy for her. It was a welcome release. She was really struggling the last year, do you know.
Was she in England at that time?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And Dad stayed on in England till he retired 19 years ago. Then he moved back to Clifton, his hometown, 19 years ago. So even though he came home, because England was a different place then, there wasn't the same crack and opportunity for tunes, and the people had, you know, it was just different. And I wouldn't want him on his own in England now, you know what I mean? So he came back. Just saying about England, mum and dad would always defend England. It was really good to them, you know. So you'd never hear my dad running England down, or I would never run England down. Me and my sisters, we had a brilliant childhood. We had the best of both worlds: the Irish culture, the tunes, the dancing, the friends, the holidays to Ireland, and everything. But you know, we had a good solid grounding, good schooling.
Did you come home for the Flack-Yole?
I only went to a couple of flats.
Did you ever compete?
No, never, ever. I've never, ever been in a competition, ever.
On purpose?
Yeah, totally. I'm afraid of my shite. I want to. I mean, I think I can play all right. You know, I think I'm a good player. But it's not about, I'm a good player, oh, Mick Conneely's a great player. No, it's not about that. It's about playing tunes. It's soul food. It's nourishment for your soul. You play tunes for the goodness of it. You want it to be as beautiful as you can. You want it just, you want to come away and go, oh God, that was absolutely gorgeous. And I go home and my wife will go, how was the tune tonight? And Louis the Lip come out, oh, you won't believe it. Oh, Tony Lennon just, oh my God almighty, you know, he just went into this tune. And, oh my God, I was nearly crying going to bed happy. That's what it's all about. It's not about competition, in my opinion. In fact, I was only having a conversation about this the weekend. Now, last year, me and you did a concert at the Flack-Yole for Flower TV, which I thoroughly enjoyed. The couple of gigs we did, it was great fun. I really enjoyed that. And I love the standard of the music, you know. I'm very spoiled. I get to play with people like you. I get to play with people like Mary Bergen. I get to play with people like Brian McGrath, Mick McCaig, David Munnelly. Oh my God, I get to play with these people. It is absolutely staggering standard of musicianship, and it keeps me on my toes because I have to make sure I'm good enough to play with you. I don't get to play with my sisters very often at all. The two girls, Pauline and Kathleen, are in the States, Chicago. Hi, Chicago. Bernie's here in Westport in County Mayo, so we rarely get together.
When did everybody leave London?
I was the last one to leave.
Were you?
Yeah. Pauline and Kathleen and Bernie all left before me. But mum and dad were happy with that. You know, kids grow up and they flee the nest and that's it. As long as you're safe and happy, that's great. You know what I mean? And we were, and of course with Irish music, you're never alone because there's always a musician and a friend, and you'll never be short of a bed or a meal. There's always a connection. You're never more than two people away from a common acquaintance. It's such a small world. We're very lucky that way, the community we have globally.
So when did the move Did you move to Galway?
No, when I first came here, I moved to a little village in Mayo called Turmacady, very picturesque on a mountain overlooking.
So like London.
Overlooking Loch Mascot, and you just go a couple of hours up there, and there's mountains and everything. Oh, it's just gorgeous, and the people were beautiful. But I mean, you know, the stranger in town, they were very, very good to me. When I was 5, Mum and Dad brought us all over at the first ever family holiday. The 6 of us came over, and we went to visit Dad's mum and dad in Connemara outside Clifton. And I remember being on the bridge opposite the cathedral here in Galway, and my grandmother had me by the hand. And my uncle, Dad's twin brother, Henry, God rest him, he collected us in the car and drove us back, going back through Mam Cross and the mountains. And it's just, that never leaves me, even to this day. When I drive out to see my dad, I'm nearly kind of lump in my throat. And all I can think of is James Morrison rambles through Ireland. You know, and I've got a lump in my throat, and I'm looking at these mountains, and I am just at home. As a 5-year-old, I knew I'd live in Galway. I always knew. Don't ask me how, or, you know, I always knew I'd be here. When I was 17, Mum started letting me come to Ireland on my own, which is quite. You wouldn't let your kid down to the local shop now at 17. The way society's going everywhere, but we were coming over to play music and to play with musicians that Mum and Dad knew, and coming over to play 1984. That's 40 years ago this year. That's the first time Mum and Dad let me on my own with my music mates and the lads from Birmingham, Kevin Crawford, the great flute player from Lunasa, Joe Malloy on the banjo, Brendan Boyle on the accordion. We all came over from Birmingham, and because I used to play music in Birmingham every week, and with this band called Longacre, and Kevin was in that. So that's where we started our playing. And the crack we used to have. We'd go into the pub on a Friday night, we'd come out on Monday, and we'd live off steak and kidney pies that were microwaved in the pub, you know, and just drinking pints. But the tunes were second to none. We had the best musical growth period at that time. Again, LPs, you know, the Botties, the Dananns, the Frankie Gavins, the Mary Bergins, all of those first albums were phenomenal. Just jumping back to your earlier question, I remember when Brendan Mulcahy gave us our first, he gave me Frankie's first album, just the one with him and Alec, recorded in 77. I was only playing the fiddle a year or two, not even 2 years at that stage. Oh my God, I've never heard anything like it. And if you listen to that with headphones, you can hear Frankie tapping his foot, man. And the groove and it's so rock solid, man. It's just the best thing ever. And I've said it everywhere I teach, you know, any fiddle player, regardless what you like, you know, you might prefer that style or this style. In my opinion, every fiddle player should have Frankie's first album in their collection. It's a real major building block of your future musical life, methinks. Yeah. Mary Bergen's too, the first album, arguably one of the best albums ever. Done in one afternoon, imagine.
Yeah. So when did you decide to make the move to Galway then?
I was living in London. I was working for Bank of Ireland in the city. I was working ridiculous hours, not playing enough music. Although in my London years, I lived in London for 5 years. I did play a lot of sessions and stuff, but I didn't play as much as I wanted to because work, and I just got exhausted of working myself to exhaustion. So had enough. Thought I'd make the move. In 1999, I recorded my first solo album. That sounds like I've recorded like 10. That's my only one yet. But hopefully it will be known as my first one after this year.
Selkie, is that's what it's called?
Selkie, I recorded that in August in 99 in East Berlin in an old analog studio. It's like walking back in time. Oh, it was amazing.
What brought you to East Berlin?
I was there with a band the year before, and we did a recording in this place, and they recorded analog and mixed analog and the old tapes and slicing and splicing, and I thought, God, I'd love to do that before digital takes over the world, you know, and I did.
What was the band?
No, the band I was touring in Europe with was a band. It was post Longacre, because Longacre, Kevin Crawford came to Ireland, and the lads kind of drifted away, I was living in London, so I wasn't making it up to Brum much, Birmingham. So I played in a band called Erislannan. We ended up being called Erislannan, which is the townland where my dad was born. So that was me and Brendan Boyle. He was one of the original Longacre box players. There was a beautiful guitarist and singer from Cork living in Copenhagen, Seamus Scahill. You might have come across him over the years. In more recent years, he was playing kind of like semi-jazz kind of stuff with a band called ULC. And staggering music, beautiful albums they put out. And there was a baron player with us as well, a Danish lad who kind of gelled us all together. He was the guy who got it going, and Sven Kelsen is his name. Wonderful guy. Loves the music. You know, that's the appeal of Irish music. You'd have to be born and bred with Irish blood and be exposed to it all your life to like it. I know lads who had that opportunity and they don't have anything to do with music. You know, everyone takes their own path in life. Do you know what I mean? That was the band we had, and we recorded in Berlin, and I thought I'd like to go back to that studio. So I recorded in August 1999, but I sat on it for a couple of years. I didn't release it till 2001. I moved here in 2000. In fact, 24 years ago next week, I moved here. But I stayed in Mayo for about 5 years or so. Then I moved to Oranmore, where I am now.
Why did you sit on the album for 2 years?
Because I hated it and I didn't think it was any good, and I couldn't get my head around it. It wasn't good enough to put out.
And looking back on it now, what do you think?
I still don't listen to it.
Really?
Not really. It is good. It's a good album. I'm happy when we're playing, but I could have been an awful lot better. At the time I recorded it, it was a kind of grey, melancholy period in my life, and my sisters all said, that's not the real you. And I knew what they meant by that. It wasn't the me, the bright me that I know I could be or used to be. The only thing going against me now, I'm not grey at all, well, except in the thatch department. But no, the only thing I'm looking at now is how long will my fingers and everything keep working the way I want them to. That's what occupies my mind from time to time now, which Are
you a perfectionist?
I'm a bit OCD. And I used to teach in Milltown, and I haven't taught in Milltown for about 12 years now. The Willie Clancy Summer School, yeah. I was very fortunate to get my foot in the door and get a class of my own for about 12 years. And it's a brilliant institution. I love it. And again, that's changed a lot since the 80s, 40 years ago. My God. I used to say to the kids, you know, it's really important when you practice that you try and get your rolls as nice as you can, because you're playing a beautiful tune, but you want to make it just that bit more beautiful, you know, because you've got to satisfy yourself first and be happy yourself first before the audience can go, you know, or whoever's listening, your mum or your granny or whatever, you know. I says, and it doesn't matter how brilliant you think you are, there's always room for improvement, you know, always. Even I know there's so much I can do to get better, really. I'm not practicing enough, I'll be honest with you, shame on me. But the choice of tunes, I said, is like, I don't play tunes I don't like, even if I know them. You know, when I can hear a tune a couple of times and I have it, same as yourself, you know, you pick it up because we're conditioned that way. We all learn by ear. I don't read music. It was only when I started playing the Bouzouki that I realised what key a tune was in. Would you believe that? Oh, this is an E minor. Oh, that's in G. Suddenly, the light went on, the eureka moment. Yeah, I'm a perfectionist. I want something to be as beautiful and as good as I can make it. You're only as good as your last gig. You know, if you play shit, you know, that's it.
Does that hold you back in any way?
No. I need to kick myself up the backside and just practice more, you know. On the Selkie album, technically and physically I played all right. Maybe my heart, maybe I set a bar too high for myself. I don't know. Maybe I didn't at all. I have no idea. You know, I wouldn't put it on and listen to it now. Whereas the recording I made with David Munley 14 years ago is my favourite thing I've ever done in life. Absolutely, ever. Absolutely love it. And I could listen to that all day long. But then I'm hiding behind him because he's such a powerhouse, you know what I mean? You know, his left hand is an orchestra on its own. He does, you know, we play a duet gig. We don't need accompaniment. We don't need drums or piano or nothing. We don't need it. Anything else would kind of ruin it, you know. I was talking to John Carty. I mentioned him earlier. You know, I really respect John, love his music, always have. Like the guy, he's a good mate. We were talking about a tune I recorded on Selkie. I recorded a Morrison tune, a hornpipe called Flee as a Bird. And of course, when James Morrison plays it, oh my God, the energy, the swing, the nya, that he just weaves magic into it. And it's not an easy tune. It's technically very difficult. But then Morrison made all of that look and sound effortless because it was to him. He had been my favourite fiddle player of all time, James Morrison. And John was very kind and said he heard me playing it on the record, you know, and he thought I'd done a great job, you know. So, yeah, that was a bit humbling, I must say. You know, don't get me wrong, I don't regret the recording. I'm happy with it, but I just know my next one's going to be, well, I'm a different person now. When did I record that? 99, 25 years ago. So I'm a different boy now. I'm in a different place. I've got different tunes in mind and stuff, you know what I mean? So I'll have a different attitude and opinion about this because, well, I'm in a different zone, time zone, you know what I mean?
Are you going back to East Berlin?
No, I'm probably going to do it here in Galway. I'll record myself on fiddle, then go back and do Bouzouki on myself like I did today. And if I think the fiddle needs redoing, I'll redo it listening to myself in the Bouzouki in the earphones. That's always been an ambition of mine to do an album with myself on fiddle and Bouzouki only, because so influential was the first Frankie and Alec album. It's really stamped on me. I'll never get it out my system, and I'm proud of that. I'm not, I would never be ashamed to say that Frankie's first solo album was one of the biggest things that ever affected my musical existence ever.
And then at one stage you were in a form of Danann.
Yeah, well, when I was 15, Brendan Mulcair got Danann to play at Slough Irish Centre one Sunday morning, May 23rd, 1982. Never forget it. Life changer. And it's my first time seeing them live. And they were playing the Star Spangled Molly. So you had Frankie, Jackie, Alec, Ringo, Maura O'Connell doing the Star Spangled Molly album. Oh my God, it was just the best thing since sliced bread. Amazing. And in the interval, I was there looking up at Frankie. I was only 15. And I thought, oh God, I wonder would I ever get the chance to meet him, you know what I mean? And Mulcair grabbed me and dragged me down the aisle of the room, hundreds of people each side. Dragged me up on the stage and sat me down on the stage on my own to play a couple of tunes. I nearly soiled myself and fainted at the same time. I swear to God. And Frankie and the lads just stood just over there. And they must have been looking at this little boy, skinny boy, absolutely pale with fright in front of a few hundred people in this room. Oh my God. So I played 3 or 4 sets of tunes, but all from the Frankie album. I don't know what I was thinking. But anyway, I had them off really well. Even though I put my hand up myself. And after, that's when I first met Frankie and all the lads. I've got the album at home and they all signed it for me. I've still got that at home. And Frankie shook my hand, gave me a big hug, and fair play, young man. Very, very complimentary and, what's the word I'm looking for? Encouraging. And we've been mates ever since, really. So, 82, then 9 years later, 1991, Frankie unfortunately he hurt his arm, broke his wrist or something, and they had a tour of America, and he asked me to sit in for him, which was just, as a kid, I often dreamed about scenarios like that, because being an hour north of London, listening to these records, never imagining in a million years you'd meet or even see these people live or even play with them or tour with them. I mean, it's just I don't know. I've been very lucky that quite a few of my ambitions have materialised in life. The next one's winning the lotto.
Who was in that lineup?
The lineup then was Frankie and Alec, Aid Coffey on the box, Colin Murphy on the baron, and Eleanor Shanley singing. And it was brilliant. It was brilliant. But Frankie was with us, you see. So I didn't attract any negative, because he was with us and he had a plaster cast in his arm, but he managed to, whether he should have done or not, he managed to break away the bit of the plaster at the top so he could move his fingers, and then he'd join us for a couple of sets playing the whistle because he could move his fingers. So the fact that he was there was brilliant because it meant there was no kind of, who's your man? Do you know what I mean?
They were
massive. And Eleanor was brilliant, and the songs were lovely, and Alec's backing was, oh my God, you know. And there I was playing with these lads. Couldn't believe it. I went there a boy and came home a man. Musically speaking, he doesn't know what I'm going to. He doesn't know what I'm going to see. He's afraid of it. I'm going to be taken to the cleaner's libel. No, it was brilliant. I was really playing well. I wish I could play that good now. I kind of think I can't, you know. And then I did another tour with them a couple of years later in Europe, in Austria. Same lineup again. And then in 2000, the year I moved here, Frankie and Alec, or 2003, I think, they kind of went their separate ways. So the Danann as we know it ended. And of all the records growing up, you know, the Bothy band, amazing. But I was, for some reason, I just homed in on the Danann stuff. I have no prejudice or bias or against or for anything, but I just gravitated towards that DD sound, that fiddle box duet thing, and the Bouzouki. Like Alec's first album, Mary Bergen and Mary's first album, Frankie with Alec, Frankie's first album. I mean, unbelievable. I'd never seen a Bouzouki, never even knew what one was, never heard of it, didn't know what it was. I first saw one in 1984 when I started playing up in Birmingham with the Birmingham lads, and I bought my first one then my only one. There it is somewhere. I bought that in 1992 in Thessaloniki in Greece, made by a fella called Victor Dekavalis. And it's still going well for me, thank God. 26. I don't know if they're meant to last that long, but Alex was made by the same guy, just pure coincidentally. Imagine that. Imagine. Then, years later, Frankie formed another Danann with a different lineup altogether. Alec then formed a Danann. The whole thing saddens me, really. I went with Alec's crew, not because I wanted to be Frankie, right? What a kid thinks at 11 and what he thinks at, 57, whatever I am now. There's only one Frankie. There'll never be another, Over the years, James Morrison, Sean Maguire, Frankie Gavin, Tommy Peoples, there isn't an endless supply of absolute top-notch to die for musicians, but Frankie's right up there, And I wouldn't for one second, couldn't say anything bad about Frank. I love his music, always have, you know what I mean? He's a mate, and we get on. He's a good guy. But I went with Alex to Danann, and I do regret it. Because it was like a bit of a circus going on. Oh, you're with the continuity to Danann, and you're not with the real Danann because Frankie's in the real one, and all this kind of stuff. And of course, everyone who's a fan has their own side of it and whatever, But the reason why, and I told Frankie this, but whether he believed it or not, I don't know. But, the reason I went with Alex was because I was so influenced by Mary Bergen's first album, just her and Alec and Ringo. I wonder what it'd be like to play with them. And of course, Johnny was in the band, Alec was in the band, and it was just me participating was a small personal taste of history that I got to play with them boys.
Must have been some crack for bookers.
Yeah, imagine. Which to Danann are they going to get? What photographs going to come in the press pack? I'm really honoured to have had the opportunity to play with them all. Do you know what I mean? Really am. But,
Do you like touring?
I do. But I love my home life as well. I'm very lucky. Got a beautiful wife at home and 2 great boys. So I don't like to be away any great length, really. It's not that I'm a home bird, but you have to provide, pay your bills. I do love touring. I actually envisage touring as my main source of income in my later years when I'm not working 9 to 5. Because what I'm doing now, I can't see that lasting forever. I work in IT at our local hospital. It's a never-ending job. There's always something to be done, but it's very rewarding and very satisfying. But
how many times a day do you say turn it off and turn it on again?
Every day.
Truly?
Oh, every day, yeah. And then I tell them to turn the computer off as well. So, yeah, sometimes it can really wreck your head, I'll be honest with you.
What would grab you to consider leaving that and going full-time at music? Can you imagine a project or an opportunity?
Well, I'm playing with David Manley at the minute, and we play with a girl. We did a couple of gigs last year with this singer from Karna. Her name's Katrina Nikianovan. And I met her a couple of times, actually. I met her when I first moved here 20 odd years ago. She sang at my cousin's wedding in Uachtarard, and I played, myself and Brian McGrath played in the church for that one. That's the first time I met Katrina. She comes from a family, they all play and sing, and I mean, they're gifted. And then she sang again then a couple of years ago at my Uncle Henry's funeral, my dad's twin brother. And so we knew each other, but we didn't know each other that well. Then last year, myself and Dave did a concert in the Tyviark Theatre in Galway, but they kind of said, because I don't speak Irish, Dave probably has a few focal, but you've got to have a singer with you, a female. I'm not sure whether female was stipulated, but just say it was, just for the crack, So what? You want eye candy because you don't want to look at 2 ugly old gits playing good music? No, it's not appealing. You know what I mean? It's not a spectator sport. People listen with their eyes closed as well. But anyway, we did a couple of gigs with Katrina, and she's pure gorgeous, and what a singer! And oh my God, she blew me away. Absolutely, we were absolutely staggered at her talent. And so all the gigs we do now with her, we go out as a trio, and she's on the next album, and some of the material we've collected is just, I can't wait to get it out there. It's really, really beautiful. And when she sings with the voice of a woman her age, she's not trying to be sound like a 10-year-old, whatever that means. Again, just my opinion. So yeah, so the Danann thing, timing, being in the right place at the right time, it all kind of came together. Been there, done that. I wouldn't do it again. I'm sure by saying yes to one camp, the other wasn't happy. I really didn't gain anything at all. How is your dad now? Dad is great. He's 84. He lives in Clifton. But the years, and Dad's great. Like, you asked a question earlier, did they ever dream about coming home? I don't ever remember that conversation in the house. But I know lots of my dad's peers, lads his own age, who worked, their dream was to move back home and do up that old cottage and stuff. There were 2 types of guys, the ones who were married with kids and ones who never married at all and had no kids. Them lads, many of them worked hard, saved up, and then when they retired, they moved back, did the work on the house, and they were dead within a year. Cruel. Oh, all of that, and it all gone like that. Dad, he was one of the old school who could look after himself. He could always cook, and there are some lads who couldn't boil an egg or boil a pot of water. Do you know what I mean? But Dad is brilliant, and he was great, and he can look after himself. He's a brilliant cook. He wouldn't eat anything. Spam and eggs, what's that? You know what I mean? He wouldn't eat anything, only good spuds, cabbage, bacon, steak. Good, honest to God food that we all know in our palate. So He's 84. He's at home on his own in Clifton, still 100% independent, however long that will last. His playing days, I say, his best playing days are definitely behind him. COVID done a lot of damage to his generation in this country, I'm sure all over the world, but one of his best mates used to play with a lot, John Gerard Walsh. Do you know Marie Welch in Clifton? Her dad, John Gerard. What a gent, what a dote of a man, lovely, lovely man. And he died just a few short years ago. But him and Dad used to play together a lot, and he's very good to Dad, and we pick him up and they go out and they play a gig in the pub and a couple of pints and stuff, and Dad had a great time. But then John Gerard left and COVID came, and Dad hasn't really played since, you know. And I'd go to his place and I'd bring my fiddle and I'd get his fiddle out, and I have the two fiddles, and I'd play a tune on mine, and then I'll play a tune on his. He's got a beautiful fiddle, and as well. And he goes, "Do you know, I think my fiddle sounds nicer than yours, you know." And I said, "Oh, well, you know, whatever you think yourself, mate, you know." And then he'll say to me, "Do you know, I think you prefer my fiddle to yours." And this crack starts, do you know what I mean? So there's still a bit of fire in him, do you know what I mean? But I think all the years of the hard work and jackhammers and construction stuff, it's got to him. As Brian McGrath said to me, all music, I don't know about you, do you suffer from like shoulder pain and all that from the banjo?
Not really, no.
Not really?
No. I keep all my pain on the inside.
Well, I'll tell you, some days, as Brian has, you know, he told me he gets a sore shoulder. My shoulder's been sore, you know, for a couple of years now, and elbow, and sometimes Brian says, "It's like this, Mick, I can punch you in the face, but I can't put my coat on." Do you know what I mean? Right. So I have some of them. I can do that, but I can't do that.
I have had stuff, but I discovered that a lot of breathing exercises and remembering to breathe when I play, it deactivated an awful lot of that tension. Yeah.
I don't think mine's tension. Mine would be just wear and tear and bad posture. You know, sat at a desk using a computer every day is not good. Then when you're playing the fiddle, you know, you're accommodating a position to, you're adopting a posture to accommodate an instrument that isn't naturally, you know what I mean? And then the bouzouki then, it's right out here, and even Alec used to get sore arm, and I remember him telling me he used to get sore elbow and shoulder and stuff. So I'm becoming that creaky old man. But when I try and get my dad to play, you can see the weakness in his hand now because he's so out of practice. It just, the grip, the way he's holding everything, it isn't what it was. You know, bless him.
And do you prefer his fiddle?
No.
Honestly?
No, I prefer mine.
I wasn't sure.
No, I do, but his is beautiful too. When I play his, I like his, and when I play mine, I like mine.
That kind of suggests that you prefer his, Mick. I'm just going to say.
No, I do prefer mine.
It's okay if you prefer his.
Thank you.
So, a new album with Dave Munnelly, is that this year? Is that coming out soon?
Record that this year, yeah.
And a long-awaited second solo album?
I don't know whether that'll come this year. Whenever I get my head in the right space, as in happy that my playing is to the standard of my liking. See, when I'm playing with Dave, I've got so much room I can make mistakes and everything, but you wouldn't really know it because they wouldn't be massive. But he just cushions everything, you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's how I feel when I'm playing with you.
Yeah.
You're filling in all my mistakes.
Well, I feel that when I'm playing with you as well, because you're rock solid behind me, and I feel the same when I'm playing with Brian.
Solo is always hard.
Yeah, Brian McGrath is rock solid, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Rhythm, swing, his tunes, repertoire, second to none, unbelievable. Yeah.
Have you a big dream?
A big dream. Well, there's a few in there. I hope that life remains healthy, you know. No scares around the corner. You know, it would be nice for Irish musicians to be able to make a living in their own country. I can't see that happen in my lifetime. I mean, all the work you ever did was out of here. You know what I mean? The majority, you know.
I was looking at a Galway Arts Council grant today. I was going to apply for it until I read down through the requirements, and one of the requirements, if you can believe this, is that the project should be not for profit. I was like, I understand, but I was like, what is the point? But even the mindset that a grant to an artist should be something that they do and not make any profit from. So there's something wrong in the mindset.
So what, you get a grant and then you're not allowed to buy groceries with it, or?
You're not allowed to produce something that will make money, that will produce a profit, that will be economically viable. Now, I do understand the point of funding arts forms that may not be profitable in their own right. But to put it in as a stipulation that you cannot make a profit from this, there's something fundamentally wrong with the mindset that we're continuing to propagate the starving musician and the starving poet and the starving artist, rather than looking at them as something that is organic and incredible and a massive resource for Ireland. Think of the amount of people every year that come to Galway because they're like, you got to come to Galway and hear all the music 6 nights a week, 7 nights a week, 6 pubs in Galway, 7 pubs in Galway, twice a day, free. So you are right. We're getting political now.
I really believe Ireland has one of the strongest cultures on the planet. I mean, our music and dancing. I mean, who'd have thought a phenomenon like Riverdance, for example, or Law of the Dance would have travelled the globe and got massive audiences and highlighted, the talent that comes from Ireland, over the years, bands, the Clancy brothers, the Chieftains, who blazed a path for everyone else coming after them. The Dananns, the Bothies, who toured in America, and just the level of awareness spread around the globe of Irish culture. But the singing, the music, and the dancing is as good as it gets. Yes, I'm biased. Of course I am. I'm born and reared in that environment, but I'm trying to be realistic when I say it. It is phenomenal. It is phenomenal. Irish music is accepted everywhere. It travels well. But unfortunately, musicians have to travel to earn the money because they can't earn it back home. Would I like to play music for a living? I'd love to, but without being away from home 8 months of the year.
Yeah.
If you have to be away 8 months of the year, then it's a single man's game. Then you're not, what woman's going to put up with you, or partner's going to put up with you when you're not there for 8 months? And especially if you've got a young family, say, that's the mum to say, or the dad rearing them on their own while the other one's away. It's a hard balance. That's why I took the decision not to go full time. When I met the girl of my dreams, I couldn't believe my luck, so I wasn't going to mess it up, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Mick, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
And you.
Yeah.
I hope I haven't come across as too melancholy or...
Not at all.
I love music more than anything. My day job is merely facilitating bill payment, paying our way in life. That's the way it is. I know you worked in an environment not far from me many years ago, here in Ireland in the health service, in an arm of the health service there. So, but the stuff that you've achieved and the ground you've covered, is stuff I can only dream of. Like last week, I had a few tunes with Sean Smith. He's on tour in the States at the minute with Lunacy, and when he comes home, he's back working his day job. He never stops. He's a dynamo. I don't know where he gets his energy. But, them lads also, like you, the Banjos, the Lunacers, all of you are still, Lunacer, how many years are they going now? Even Altan are back on the road in the States this month, new album out. It's phenomenal. The trail is still being blazed. So anyone coming after us is, they've got a bright environment, I hope, a bright future. Would I play music for a living? I'd love to think I could. Could I physically? I'm not sure. But is there an audience for what me and Dave do, say, and the singer? Or do they want the big band sound with a piano and a drum kit and a bass guitar? I remember once back in 14 years ago, we played at Kansas City Irish Festival, and me and Dave got up on the stage, fiddle and accordion, that was it. And before us was a full band. In fact, no, it was another festival. You were at it because we ended up playing with you that night on stage.
That was Kansas City.
Was it Kansas?
Yeah, there's a great video online. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't play standing up. I look like I've sat on a broom and I'm trying to sweep the floor. You know what I mean? Because I'm just... Fergal was just dancing away. His balance, I nearly fell over. I swear to God, I can't play. I look so awkward standing. I play better when I'm sat.
Do you remember how hot that was? It was 40 degrees on stage at
That's
10
right.
o'clock at night. It was so hot.
That's like the story where the Dubliners were in Australia years ago, and they're in this little town out in the outback, and it's boiling hot, you know, and the whole town came out to welcome the world famous Irish Dubliners, rightly so. And they're on this marquee, and the mayor of the town was welcoming the great Dubliners to their little town. And I think he said to one of the lads, he goes, "It's 40 degrees in the shade." And one of them goes, "Well, Jays, I won't go in there then."
Barney McKenna.
Yeah,
It's
Barney,
one of
yeah.
his famous lines.
Bless
I won't
him,
go in the
yeah.
shade then. Yeah.
Lovely box player, Barney. Melodeon,
Yeah.
lovely.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, Enda. Nice
been a
to talk to
pleasure.
you, mate.
It's been a pleasure, Mick. Thank you.
Keep the faith.